This afternoon we have Mahendra Mahey, who has recently started with the British Libraries collection. And he's going to be talking about the British Library collection, which I believe is a project to open up the digital collections of the British Library to researchers and to people who want to explore and do interesting stuff with it. So without further ado.
Thank you. Hi, okay, so my name's Mahendra Mahey. This is the second time I've spoken at SoundSoftware, so you may know me under a different guise, okay? This will only make sense if you watch The Simpsons, so I apologise, okay? This is Troy Mcclure. It's a character that keeps popping up on lots of different episodes. Last year, I think, was it last year or the year before? I presented on a different project I was working on called the Developer Community Supporting Innovation Project. However, I've moved from that project and now working at the British Library. So I'm here to talk about British Library Labs, which is a new initiative. I started in March, and I'm going to give a bit of a background about the project, talk about some of the content that we want to encourage researchers and developers to use with labs, talk a little bit about a competition that we're running at the moment, which actually closes today at midnight. Still not too late to enter, okay? And just generally about how you can engage with labs generally. So, you know how it is, you watch lots of slides and you forget them all. Okay, this is probably the one important slide to remember out of all of my slides. That kind of summarizes the project up in a nutshell. That's the tagline we've been using on a lot of our advertising. Every book tells a story, but what can 68,000 books tell you? That's actually one collection, okay, which is the 19th century books, which we had digitized in cooperation with Microsoft a few years ago. They're sitting on a 30 terabyte NAS box near my desk, okay, and it's under public domain license, Creative Commons 0. People can use it. What we're trying to do is we're trying to encourage research at scale, okay? So not focusing just on individual items, focusing at collections of stuff, okay? And the British Library has lots of collections of things. So in a nutshell, we're trying to encourage scholars. Sometimes they're the same people, developers. Sometimes they're not. To do research and development with and across British Library collections and data. But we're also encouraging people to use other data sets as well, so not just the British Library content. That's our brand, okay? That's our tagline, let loose on our digital collection. So just imagine these researchers kind of running amok in the British Library, screaming and saying, ooh, we've got all these lovely collections, okay? That person there is supposed to be some kind of researcher, developer kind of person. There will be a female picture as well in the next round of our competition. The current competition we're running at the moment, you can win £3,000 and a residency at the British Library. I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute. In terms of the project, it's a 2-year funded project by the Andrew Mellon Foundation. It's American funded. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the people in the project. So that big kind of pinkish circle is within the British Library. So the Labs project is situated in the Digital Scholarship team. Okay, the Digital Scholarship team is all about promoting scholarship with digital content that the British Library has. The Digital Scholarship team have a number of digital curators. Part of their role is to train curators in the digital age, using new techniques, learning programming, how to use APIs, various tools and services to enhance scholarship. We have a project board, we have an advisory board which is external. The British Library, if you didn't know, has over 200 curators. Some fantastic names, the curator of pop music, I want that one. Curator of Tibetan manuscripts, okay? There's also over 100 researchers at the British Library, about 30 developers. There's also a group, if you didn't know, just recently formed within the British Library called the Access and Reuse Group. And that group is responsible for licensing content. So it's available under a public domain or CC0 license. And I've been working very closely with them to open up a lot of the British Library content for use for research. Our main target audience, in terms of outside the pink blob, are researchers and developers, and I've kind of deliberately overlapped them because sometimes they're the same people, in UK universities and wider. This is just a slide just to name check people. You may know some of these people on there. That's the project board, that's the advisory board, a couple of people, somebody from the BBC, King's College and so forth. Just a quick look at that, just to see if you recognise some of those names. Internally, these are some of the people that work with me. There's the digital curators, managers in the digital scholarship team. Me, at the moment, I'm all on my own. I did have a work placement student, slave, working with me for a while. And we have a technical lead, which is in recruitment, which is actually tomorrow. The interviews are tomorrow for that post. And we have an access and reuse group. So these are all kind of important people. Probably the most important people, if you didn't know, are the curators. Okay, as I said, there are over 200 curators in the library, and they have responsibility for different collections. Okay, they know the collections inside out. And part of my job has been trying to find digital collections and data, find the curators, engage with them, and get them to work with us. Sometimes the curators suggest ideas for usage, research. I had a lovely lovely idea from a curator who curates book bindings. She's been creating covers of books from the 10th century onwards, and she was suggesting an idea for an app where you could take elements from ancient books and create your own cover for an iPad or something like that. But I mean, that's just a very small idea. Just quite a nice one though. So what Labs is about, so the Labs project doesn't involve any digitization, so there's no digitization involved. It's only focusing on content that is already digitized, okay, or born digital. So there's no scanning involved, okay. Some of that content is already online. Other is in digital form, but not online yet. That could be there could be lots of things behind that statement. One, it's too big. It needs work. There are technical challenges in terms of extracting that content. License restrictions in terms of some of the restrictions are you can only access on site. The focus of the work that we're trying to encourage is for scholars to examine and analyze the content, especially at the collection level or cross-collection. So looking at a collection or lots of different collections together. We want people to do research, to publish. We'd like them to make things, tools, services, apps. And what we want to do, what's in it for us, is we want to transform the processes that we use to support scholarship and to develop new tools to help scholars. How are we doing it? We're organising lots of competitions, events, various activities. We're creating an environment where scholars and developers can come in. The lab isn't a physical space at the moment. It's like just a number of desks with some hard drives on there at the moment. Nothing too sexy at the moment. But the idea is that we want to encourage people to come in and work with us. Labs is more than just a competition. So part of my presentation is about initiating a dialogue. So if there's anything that sparks an interest, contact me and we can start a conversation. And we can pursue it further. That's just a diagram, just to explain how the project works. So you have this is, apologies for the poor clip art. That's a researcher, developer there, some BL content, some other digital content, data, some ideas, some conversations through events, competitions, contact, and these are some of the outputs: software, publications, tools and services. In terms of the plan, I started on the 18th of March, we launched on the 25th of March. It's been very busy. We've had a virtual hangout, hack event. I've been going around a few universities. We've launched a competition. The winners will be announced on the 6th of July. We've had 23 expressions of interest. As typical, people leave it to the last minute. People said, yeah, I'll get it in, and I'm still waiting for some entries. And I'll find out tonight at midnight. What we're going to do is we're going to fund the 2 best ideas to work with us between July and October. And it's going to be kind of like a competitive situation because we won't know who the winner is until November. So one will get £3,000, one will get £1,000. We'll support them financially, curatorially. They can get on their CV that they've been resident at the BL, a researcher in residence, a developer in residence. They'll be working with the technical lead on any technical implementations. And we're going to hopefully repeat the whole process again next year. So we're going to have 2 competitions. The idea of having this idea of residence, focusing cross-collection research, helping us to build tools. Some of the things that we're hoping to do is develop services that will be useful for scholars and developers. We're looking at the development of APIs. At the moment, I've actually discovered there are a number of APIs lurking within the BL. Somebody told me that they didn't have any APIs. I says, really? So I started looking, and there are actually some APIs there. I'm trying to surface them. This work will be led by the technical lead, which is recruiting at the moment, but having APIs to some of the collections will be a very powerful interface for researchers to use and developers to build things on. We're hoping to run a number of hack days. I'm sure you all know what hack days are by now, where we want people to brainstorm ideas. We're hoping to run a number of, develop a number of case studies from the competition entries and some of the other work we're going to do. The idea is that these case studies will inform other libraries around the world in terms of the lessons learned in terms of how they open up their content. I've learned a lot in the very short space of time I've been there. So let's just move on to content. Curators are absolutely essential in this puzzle, okay? You need to have contact with the curators, okay? Now, I've been deliberately trying to focus on stuff that's copyright cleared because some of the content is so entangled in issues. I'm just leaving it. It takes years to sort out. So, when I first started, I was given a list of 300 digital collections, and I thought, where do I find anything? Okay, so the filter that I adopted was focus on the stuff that's copyright cleared. So most of the stuff on our website is copyright cleared. Not all of it, a lot of it. It's digital and online. It's curated in some way. And there's metadata for each individual item. That's the filter I've adopted in terms of surfacing content. Okay? There's a whole lot of other stuff which is available, but only available on site, sometimes literally only in the reading rooms. Okay? That's the license restrictions because of the history of being a library and so forth. And some of that content is literally only available in the reading rooms, not even in other places in the library. Okay, so there's some challenges there. Some of it's available on site, some of it's in digital form, but not online. That's where we keep a list of all the collections we've been going through. That's kind of a breakdown of the kinds of things we've got. That's one set, which is the British National Bibliography, which is about 3 million records now, not 2.6, that's wrong, which is essentially an amalgamation of 2 library catalogues, the British Library and the Irish Library catalogues. That's the UK Web Archive, which actually goes back to 1996. The British Library has been storing UK websites. It now is a legal deposit library for websites, so you can keep a copy without asking permission now. That's sitting on about a huge amount of storage, which is accessible for people to use. That's the 19th century digitized books, which I mentioned. That's the International Dunhuang project, which is a project which found lots of stuff on the Silk Road in caves, which digitized lots of manuscripts and images and so forth. We have book ordering data, so people request items at the British Library. We have over 17.5 million requests. if somebody could do something interesting with that, that'd be really cool. We're also trying to provide anonymized reader data. Problematic, obviously, trying to provide anonymized reader data because you have to be careful not to identify individuals. Okay, and I always use the example of specialists in Mongolian ferrets. There are probably only 3 in the world. I just made that up. Okay, so it'd probably be quite easy to identify them. So there's a lot of issues about trying to anonymize data, but we're trying to make it available in kind of big buckets, in sort of demographic buckets. This is very interesting. This is what I've recently discovered, that the British Library has, I think, over 48,000 subscriptions to electronic journals. We have negotiated text mining rights to 50% of them. So we would love it if we could get someone to get text mining working in the reading rooms. Somebody's actually developed an app, a text mining app for an iPhone. And if we can get that working in the reading rooms, it would be fantastic. As far as sounds are concerned, obviously there are lots of legal issues about reuse of sounds, but this is quite a popular collection. We've used it as part of our competition. There are over 16,000 wildlife environmental sounds. This is probably less problematic in terms of copyright and reuse because obviously badgers and otters don't sign copyright forms. You don't have any rich foxes, really, from this collection. There's been quite a lot of interesting ideas around this collection. This is a very interesting collection, Resonance FM. This is a 10-year sound archive of a local community arts radio show given to the British Library. It sits on about 8 terabytes. And there's been quite a lot of ideas around this, sort of machine listening type activities, trying to get basic metadata about the programs, trying to extract all the music, so that so we don't have to worry about copyright and so forth. That's a very interesting collection. As far as the competition is concerned, I'm just going to whiz through that, just to sort of let you know that the deadline's today. All you need to do is submit an idea. That's all you need to do. You don't have to submit any work, just an idea. What this is about, really, for us, is to engage in a dialogue with yourselves. This could be a possible conduit if you want to start working with more of the sound collections. I'm sure all of you have various historically connections with the British Library, but this may be another route in order to do that. Some of the kinds of things that we're trying to encourage at cross-collection research level are these kinds of things. Corpus analysis, visualizations, topic modeling, geotagging, just to name a few. These are some of the actual ideas. I don't know if you can see them. I apologize for the small fonts. But these are some of the ideas actually submitted for the competition. Okay? So somebody submitted an OCR algorithm for Tangut manuscripts. Now, I didn't know who the Tanguts were. The Tanguts were actually the tribe where Genghis Khan came from, and I think they were all obliterated. I only know that because I watched Mongol at the weekend. Linking BNB data with an author claim service, timelining. One of the very simple ideas is putting content straight onto Wikimedia. That's the idea. Just put it on straight onto Wikimedia. More people will see it. Using item request data, 3D visualizations of manuscripts, text mining in the reading rooms. I've coloured these in red because they're sound related. Visualizing large collections of sound at a glance. So a bit like a Wordle for sound. How would you do that? Lots of interest in sheet music, working in the radio archive, repurposing the metadata that we generate in other content management systems like Drupal. There's some interest in infant mortality. Okay, we have lots of videos on our website, 6 minutes of researchers who are doing interesting research at cross-collection level. They're 6 minutes, they're quite entertaining. There's a bit of Reservoir Dogs on one of those, so that's a little bit of an entice to have a look at some of those. They're quite funny. Just to sort of finish off, really all of that is saying engage with us. If you're interested in some of the stuff that the British Library has, talk to us, okay? The competition is one way to engage with us. We're going to run it again, but just speak to us. And those are some of my contact details, and I'll make sure you have the slides. I'll pass them on to Lewis, and Lewis will pass them on. Okay, thank you very much.
Any questions?
I have a question. Do you know, out of those 60,000 wildlife sounds, how many of those would be geotagged?
Don't know. I'm not the curator. There must be some. I think there is a bit of geotagging in there. Yeah. Have you seen any there yet, or?
Well, I've seen on the website
Yeah.
it has some sound maps.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of those are.
There should be some geographical data on there.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyone else? I'm quite interested actually in how far this was seen. I mean, this is a little bit meta, but within the library, has this generally been seen as the way that a library is going, or was it something that there was resistance to, that was a difficult project to get out?
I think that the key comes to talking to curators. Some curators are very enthusiastic and want to be engaged. Others are a little bit more reticent.
Mm-hmm.
They've probably seen initiatives come and go, and sort of slightly hold back. But it's generally seen positively. Okay, I think there's a lot of work to be done because the British Library employs over 1,800 people. It's a large organisation, so there's a lot of talking to people, trying to convince them of the arguments, sitting down with them, seeing what stuff they've got. So that takes time in building those relationships.